In 1875, a deal took place that silently reshaped the global balance of power. Britain purchased a massive stake in the Suez Canal, securing control over one of the most strategic waterways on Earth. But behind that deal, behind the polished faces of politics and empire, stood a quiet family of financiers, a name whispered through the corridors of power, both respected and feared: the Rothschilds. They weren't kings or conquerors, they never led armies, yet somehow, their influence extended further than many monarchs of their time. This is the story of how a single family, starting in a cramped ghetto in Frankfurt, rose to become the architects of modern banking and one of the most powerful dynasties in history. Mayer Amschel Rothschild didn't look like a man destined to change the world. Born in 1744, he grew up in the Jewish quarter of Frankfurt, where opportunities were limited and prejudice was common. But Mayer had a gift. He understood money, not just the math behind it, but the psychology, the timing, the trust it required. He began dealing rare coins and small loans, gaining the attention of powerful local aristocrats. Among them, the Landgrave of Hesse-Kassel, one of the wealthiest rulers in Germany. That relationship changed everything. By managing the Landgrave's fortune, Mayer learned the secrets of European finance. But his real genius wasn't just in banking, it was in legacy. He had 5 sons, and instead of keeping them close, he sent each one to a different city in Europe: Frankfurt, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples. 5 brothers, 5 strongholds. Together, they formed a web of financial power that no single government could match. Their timing couldn't have been more perfect. Europe was at war, Napoleon's ambitions had plunged the continent into chaos, and every nation needed money desperately. The Rothschilds didn't take sides, they financed them. From London to Paris, they funded armies, supplied currencies, and even moved gold secretly across borders using a courier system faster than any official messenger. Their network outpaced kings. When news of Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo reached London, Nathan Rothschild knew before anyone else and used that information to outmaneuver the British bond market, securing one of the greatest fortunes of the 19th century. But the Rothschild story wasn't just about wealth. It was about reinvention. As the 1800s unfolded, nations rebuilt. Railways, industries, and empires expanded. The Rothschilds were there at every cornerstone. They financed Belgium's independence, supported Brazil after its separation from Portugal, and lent Britain the funds to abolish slavery across its empire. Every coin that changed the course of history seemed to have passed, at some point, through their hands. Still, power has a price. Whispers followed them. In drawing rooms and coffee houses, people wondered how one family could hold so much control. Envy turned to suspicion, and soon, the Rothschild name became entangled in conspiracy, exaggerated beyond recognition. Some saw them as masterminds behind governments. Others painted them as villains pulling invisible strings. But the truth was simpler and far more human. They were brilliant financiers who saw opportunity where others saw risk. Their rise wasn't built on sorcery or secrets, but on information, timing, and trust. In London, Nathan's branch became a cornerstone of British industry. They bankrolled railways, mines, and the expansion of the Royal Mint. Their gold reserves helped stabilize the British pound. Nathan himself was said to control more wealth than the Bank of England. His influence extended into politics and policy, yet he lived without ostentation, a man more focused on the movement of markets than on displays of luxury. In France, James Mayer Rothschild turned Paris into the family's second great empire. He financed factories, helped build the nation's railroads, and supported the early industrial boom that turned France into a modern powerhouse. When Belgium gained its independence, the new king turned to the Rothschilds for help, and they delivered. Elsewhere in Europe, the Vienna branch kept the Austrian economy afloat through wars and revolts. When the empire verged on collapse in the 1860s, it was Rothschild loans that helped hold it together, literally financing the dual monarchy of Austria-Hungary into existence. But behind the ledgers and the power was something deeply personal. The Rothschilds were Jewish in a Europe that was often hostile to them. They faced stereotypes, exclusion, and at times, violence. Yet, rather than retreat, they used their influence to protect and uplift Jewish communities. They funded schools, hospitals, and synagogues. Later, some family members even supported early Zionist movements, purchasing land in what would become Israel decades before its founding. Not all chapters of their story were triumphs. The Napoleonic Wars made them rich, but later conflicts tested their endurance. The Crimean War, the Long Depression of the 1870s, and the crash of the 1930s brought financial storms that even they couldn't fully escape. When Nazi Germany rose to power, their European branches were targeted. Banks were seized, collections confiscated, family members forced into exile. Decades of empire building were undone almost overnight. Yet, like before, they adapted. The post-war world was different. America now led global finance, but the Rothschilds quietly rebuilt. They merged operations across London and Paris, diversified investments, and expanded into sectors far beyond banking. From mining to energy to fine wine, the name lived on, not as an empire of kings, but as a network of influence still woven through the modern world. One of their most fascinating figures was Walter Rothschild, a banker by blood but a zoologist by passion. He collected hundreds of thousands of animal specimens, famously driving a carriage pulled by zebras through the streets of London. It was eccentric, yes, but it symbolized something larger: the freedom to redefine success beyond money. For generations, the Rothschilds had been financiers. Walter reminded the world they were also thinkers, collectors, and dreamers. As the 20th century rolled forward, the Rothschilds moved further into philanthropy. They supported education, science, and art. They funded medical research and humanitarian causes across continents. To this day, their legacy extends beyond finance into culture and conservation. Their name might not dominate headlines like it once did, but in many ways, that's the point. Influence, after all, doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers quietly, shaping the world from behind the scenes. Today, the Rothschild name still carries weight. The family's combined wealth may no longer rival nations, but their legacy built the framework for global finance itself, the system of credit, debt, and trust that fuels our world today. Their story isn't just about money, it's about endurance, reinvention, and timing. How one family, born into limitation, turned opportunity into empire, and empire into history. They began as traders in coins. They became lenders to nations. They watched the rise and fall of empires, shaping the course of Europe from the shadows of their counting houses. And yet, for all their power, the Rothschilds were human, ambitious, flawed, strategic, and visionary. They didn't just adapt to history, they financed it. So who were the Rothschilds really? Were they the masters of capitalism, or simply its greatest students? A family blessed by timing or by genius? The truth may lie somewhere in between. But one thing is certain: when you trace the veins of modern finance, you find their fingerprints everywhere.